Well, hey there, you guys. Welcome back to another week at the podcast. I am your host, Janeen Alley, and you are listening to Becoming the CEO of Your Life Today. So, the thing that I wanted to cover today on the show is the 10 essential characteristics of becoming unwavering in your life and in your message, and showing up and doing the things that you say that you're going to do with that energy of conviction in your voice. So, first, I wanted to just talk about what I mean by characteristics, because I think sometimes people are thinking like, oh, I just am not this way, or I'm not born with this special talent or ability. And so therefore, it's not available or accessible to me. And I'm here to tell you that it's not that way. So characteristics are distinguishing features or qualities that we have. And like I said, most importantly, we are not born with these things. These are things that we can learn and we can develop over time. You can learn these kinds of characteristics that I am talking about today. And I'm here to tell you, when you do, they are going to change your life. I promise you they will. This is one of the things that I have been coaching on a lot lately. And so I wanted to do this podcast today because I want you to think about, okay, one or two of these things, which ones do I need to work on? Which ones do I need to develop? Which ones seem easy to me to master so that I can maybe come back to this podcast and work on a few others and do it like that. So that's kind of the idea behind this podcast today. So the first characteristic is developing the belief that it is done. Okay, do you guys hear how I said that? It is done. Even if it's still an idea in your mind, if it is something that you are passionate about creating, you want to generate this energy that it's done. Even before you break ground on your idea, it could still be in the vision stage, and yet you're 1,000% on board. Other people might not be on board, and it's totally okay. They're not your people. Okay, so it goes beyond confidence. It's not actually confidence at all because you have never done it before, right? That's where confidence comes from, is past experiences and wins or successes that you've had that you can rely on. So it is kind of developing this unapologetic self-trust that you are going to be able to figure things out. You understand what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and you've worked on your ability to feel your emotions. So it's kind of this energy of, I've totally got you. We're going to work until we get it done. And that can feel scary and hard and all those things. And that's okay. If your it is done energy is bigger than the fear, you're going to work on the project, right? Okay, the next one is, you know what your values are. This one is really important because when we are making decisions, sometimes we have to weigh in on the values in the moment. What is the most important thing to me right now? Is it my family? Is it my health? Is it honesty? Like, there's things that that surface, and it makes it kind of challenging to make decisions sometimes, because it seems like we're having to weigh in on which value is the most important in this situation. So if I was to ask you, okay, what are your top 5 values? What would you say? Are you able to identify those right off the top of your head? In past podcasts, I've talked about how to be really clear, crystal clear on what your priorities are. You should be able to just rattle off what your priorities are. So it's kind of the same thing with values. Can you do the same thing with your values? So for me, my values are my faith, my family, and I would kind of string all of these together, although for some people they're different, but trustworthiness, honesty, integrity, this is right up there with my faith and my family. My well-being, being authentic, and love, I would say, are the top values that I have in my life. And so I want you to be thinking about this. I did this exercise with someone else this week, and interestingly, creativity showed up in her top 5. So there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's just, what are they to you? You want to get clear on this and understand that your values are not going to be same as your neighbor's values or your spouse's values, right? Or your kids' values. And that's okay. But what you want to be thinking of is, okay, when I'm feeling this friction, which of my values are out of alignment, and how can I make decisions based off of these values so that I am living more and more in alignment. When we are in alignment with our values, this is when we feel energized. This is when we have peace in our lives. This is when we get into the state of flow much easier. So I want you thinking, when we do these values exercises, I want you thinking, okay, what are the actions that I'm taking that are not in alignment with my values, and see how you can eliminate those things out of your life. Like I said, we have so much friction in our lives when our thoughts and our actions don't align with the things that we value. So I am going to share a personal experience right now. And I got to tell you, this one feels really vulnerable for me to share, because I've noticed a part of myself that I really, and it's not that I don't like it. It just is really not in alignment with my values. I listed my values on purpose because I wanted to show you this example. And I kind of hemmed and hawed about whether I should share this, because like I said, it does feel vulnerable. I'm highlighting a part of myself that I am working on, that I really don't like. In fact, it's kind of the opposite of one of my values, even though I'm noticing this as part of myself. But one of the things that I say on the podcast a lot is you've got to really embrace all of yourself. I use that analogy or that story from one of Brene Brown's book when she talks about bringing all of her girls to church. I mean, the rebel, and, the one who wants to be irreverent, she's bringing all of her girls to church with her because that's where she wants to be. And that is a value that she has from her highest self. And yet we still have parts of ourselves that don't always align. So I was noticing for myself, there's a few things that were happening in my life, and I was noticing two things about myself. One of them is I have this desire to be right. And I also have a desire, when I've been hurt, to get revenge. And that's the part of the being right is something that I can manage and I can kind of laugh at sometimes. But the revenge part of me, there's still a little bit, just in even sharing this with you, there's a little bit of me that feels a little bit of shame around this, because like I said, I value love, and this feels like the opposite of that. But for the work that I have done, and I've done this with help from other people, but this is a childhood pattern. And I don't think I learned this from anyone. I had very peaceful parents that didn't seek revenge on other people, but it just came up at some point and it became a pattern for me. And at first, when I recognized this desire for revenge, I tried to shun it. I tried to get rid of it. I tried to block it. And it wasn't helpful. It was almost like that part of me became louder, like the conversations of revenge in my subconscious mind that would just happen, when I was driving the car or in the shower or something, continued to get louder. So obviously this is not part of my core values, like I mentioned, or who I want to be, because I do value peace. I do value love, but doing the work to be in alignment requires love. It requires acceptance of myself. That is the way to have this part of myself feel more at peace. It had a job to do, I'm sure, at one point in my life, or it thought it did, and it's still trying to do its job. And I have to do the work to let it know, like, this isn't your job anymore, and it's okay. And like I said, I'm getting kind of emotional because it's been hard. It's been really hard work for me to do. And yet it's been so good. It's been so good at the same time. So sometimes that value alignment, like I said, requires a lot of us. It requires the recognition and the awareness, the curiosity and the compassion, the allowing of ourselves, even when these pieces of ourselves might seem ugly to us. And then we're able to show up with more intention, more alignment, because of the peace that we've created with that part of us. Okay, the next piece of becoming unwavering is understanding and knowing it's all about progress and not about perfection. Again, this is something that I was coaching somebody on this week. And so I want to just start off by saying, I really do understand your desire to get things right, but there really isn't a right or a perfect. It doesn't exist. All it does is it just keeps us stuck. So to become unwavering, you have to shift your focus to the progress that you're making, because you're going to keep showing up That's unwavering, right? The thing that keeps so many people stuck in this idea is that you're not good enough for some reason. So if you're unwavering in your mission, you know you're going to get there, even with a half managed brain and even with all of your humanness. This is the thing I really want you to understand. I've shared this story before, but I'm going to share it again. My first half Iron triathlon, I was really worried because I wasn't perfect at getting my workouts done. I'm sure I had a couple weeks where I got all 11 workouts in, but some of them may have not have been for the full time, or, I didn't complete the workout at all on some weeks. And I really settled down when I realized I can still finish the race with about 75 or 80% of my workouts finished. I actually read that in a triathlon training book. And so that helped me to be like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track. And my goal, I have to tell you, it was kind of a lofty goal for a first time half Ironman triathlon at my age with 4 children. My goal was to get in the top 50% of my age group and to finish in around 4 hours. And for that race, I barely squeaked by, but I got in the top half of my age group for that race. And I got in, I think at 4:04 or like 4:10 or something. And so I was really proud of myself that I did that, even with not perfect training. Like I said, it was about 75, 80% of the training that I got in off of my schedule, my training schedule that I was going off of. And that was amazing. And so it just kind of showed me again, like, you can reach your goals. You're going to be a mess on some days, and that's okay. It's not, you want to be careful when we say this, because you're not a mess showing up every day, but you're doing the work so that you're showing up and you're getting things done most of the time. Okay. More than half of the time. All right. The next one is you highly value your own wisdom and you create routines that nurture and strengthen that connection. My base of the program that I am creating is to create your core connection, because this unwavering energy comes from within you. It comes from, it's like the energy of your soul is where it comes. It doesn't come from getting gold stars or doing everything that you feel like you should, quote unquote, should, from external milestones that you're trying to reach. It comes from within you. It's almost like you're on BFF terms with you. You value your experiences. You love to think about what you're thinking about and ideas that you have and opinions and likes and wants and desires and needs that you have. You advocate for these things. And I find when I can do this for me, it's so much easier for me to do this for other people as well. Okay. The next characteristic is you keep a rigidly flexible schedule, because I know a lot of you are just like me and you have a lot of moving pieces that you're juggling from week to week, right? So I have been able to create and live out this balance between flow and creative work and play. And I have been focusing more and more and more on doing the things that feel good to me and letting this kind of be my North Star and what it is that I'm doing for the day. Now, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, this doesn't sound like the way I used to talk about things, and that's okay because we all learn and grow and do things differently. So sometimes this is passive. Sometimes I'm just out in nature, taking a walk, being with my kids, and doing things that feel good to me, that feel, the way that I want to live my life, right? Being with people that I want to be with. And sometimes this is very active. I'm doing specific breath work and yoga practices and doing certain things so that I feel good. And thinking about, okay, what matters to me today? What do I desire to create today? What would be fun to do? And to do those things, because the more I do those things, the more I'm able to show up with this unwavering conviction. And like I said, I used to be a little bit more strict with my schedule and like scheduling everything, like, I don't want to say like down to the wire. I've always had to be more flexible with my schedule just because I have 4 children and life happens and, all the things that I'm sure you can relate with. But I used to be more of a taskmaster about it. And when I am thinking about what feels good, I don't need to be that kind of taskmaster with myself. So if I'm not able to get myself into that state of flow, then I know that I need to do something fun, or I have to do some bigger emotional work to do it. And so this is what I've been doing. This revenge piece of this plays in right here, because when I was noticing this was when I was trying to get to work and these stories were circulating in my mind. And I'm like, I just don't like the way that I feel. And so sometimes it's energy work that I need to do to get things done on my list. And sometimes it's energy work that I need to do to have that love and compassion with myself so that these don't become stumbling blocks for me. Okay, the next one is you create healthy boundaries and you follow through on them. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my boundaries definition. If you feel like someone has crossed the line, whether physically, emotionally, or mentally, you state what you are going to do next time or right now. If you come over unannounced or unplanned, I may not answer the door. Or I will lock my door so you can't just walk into my house, right? I have used this example before based off of a real situation where mother-in-law would just come over and walk in and expect to be included in what was going on. And that became a problem because the mom was like, hey, I can't have you here. I've got things that I need to be doing. And this is creating a problem for me. So the boundary is you are welcome to come over, but if you come over unannounced, I'm not going to answer my door. You see how it places the ball back in her court. So you have to be really clear on what you have control over and what you don't. You don't have control over other people. But that's how you use boundaries. So you want to be able to create healthy boundaries and follow through on them. All right. The next characteristic is you understand the value of who you are and what you do. If people aren't bored with your message, you know they're not your people, and you keep going. You keep speaking up until you find your tribe. And when I say speaking up, it's in any modality. It's in any way that you want to share what you feel like you are here to do, whether it's through your art or your writing. It could be poetry, it could be coaching, it could be a business, it could be community service, whatever it is. But you understand the value of who you are and the value of what you do, and you keep creating. All right, the next one is you powerfully share your message or create from that energy of conviction and almost this shameless confidence in the way that you promote what it is that you believe. You know, it's not about you. It's about who you are here to serve and the lives you are here to change or to touch. And you know, like I said, you're not for everyone. You're just here for your people. So this is the thing that I want you to understand is oftentimes we downplay this self-promotion and not wanting to talk about what it is that we have created because we feel like we're talking about ourselves. So in order to shift that, you want to think about, okay, who are you here to serve? And you just keep working until you bring those people into your world. All right, I've got two more. So second to last is you walk the talk. In other words, you practice the things that you preach. So if I was back in the day teaching and talking about plant-based nutrition, and yet I wasn't living that way, that would be super out of alignment, right? You want to work on embodying this energetically aligned message that you have, which means you are living the things that you talk about. Like I said, there really isn't a better way to say it than practicing what you preach. You walk the talk. You do what you say you're going to do. I see this a lot actually on social media. People talking about creating, you know, 6 figures in a year or, you know, a certain amount of followers on their social media platforms. And yet that's not what they have. And you can still be a business coach, but just don't use that language. You don't want to bring people into your world when you're, you know, just a few steps ahead of them and not creating the outcomes that you're promising for people. You want to live in alignment with what it is that you're doing. Okay, so the very last one that I have today is you're not afraid to be polarizing and take a stand for the things that you believe. And I use the word afraid loosely because you have to get used to feeling the fear and sometimes uncertainty or the self-doubt and doing it anyway. You want to create, like I said, that conviction around your message, and you want to include the parts of it that you know are going to repel certain people. It's what you want. If you are vanilla, you're not attracting anyone. I did a podcast about this last week. So if this is something that's interesting to you and you missed that episode, go back and listen to it. But this is really so important in becoming unwavering and showing up with conviction in the things that you're saying. Because, like I said, that's what brings people along with you. They're like, yes, I believe that too. This is my person. And I want somebody in my corner that's going to support me in this belief. All right. So that's what I have to really become the CEO of your life. Like I've mentioned today, a few of these things. You want to create that core connection. You want to feel your fire and embody that energetically aligned message. And you have to show up with that unwavering conviction in what it is that you're doing. All right. If this episode of the podcast was fun or insightful for you, I would love it if you left me a review, if you rated the podcast, if you shared with your friends. It really does help me to spread the message and what it is that I am doing. And if you would like to connect with me further in what it is that you're doing, if you feel like becoming the CEO of your life is going to be something that is going to help support you to bring your message forth, I would love to connect with you. Just reach out to me at janeenalley.com/CEO, and I will see you in the call. But for the rest of you, I will all catch you next week on the podcast. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.